This episode is brought to you by the Thrive Tribe. Check it out at chasingbrighter.com/Thrive Tribe. Today's episode is called Mothering Ourselves: How to Reclaim Happiness in Midlife. Because the kind of care we give to everyone else, we need it too. This episode is your permission slip to start mothering yourself with compassion, consistency, and without guilt. We're going to talk about mindset shifts, daily rituals, and how to prioritize joy again, because you deserve to feel full, not just functional.
Part one, what does it mean to mother ourselves? Think about how you care for a child, your child, a loved one. You don't just feed them, you ask them if they're hungry. You notice when they're tired and you say, let's rest. You encourage them when they feel down. You celebrate their wins. You hold them gently when you cry. Mothering ourselves means extending the same tenderness inward to yourself. It means asking, what do I need? What would make me feel more like me today? It's about becoming your own nurturer, guide, and advocate. And it is not indulgent. It is essential, my friends.
It is so interesting, right? How we are always asking that about particularly our children, but not ourselves. And I think I've given this example before. I started seeing a dietitian in 2018. And literally, I know you do this too. Every day we get up and we make breakfast for our children and we make lunch for our children. I normally at that time am not doing it. I'm not making anything for myself. And my dietitian was like, why don't you make lunch for yourself while you're making lunch? And I was just like my mind broke. Just like that sounds so stupid, but I never thought when I used to even make Justin's lunch. I was making every single person's, and never did I make my own lunch. It just seems so stupid but it's like, that's not our instinct.
Yeah, I don't make myself lunch when I make Beckett's, but I do make myself some breakfast,
Yeah.
not every day. However, I also think about it as there's the one, even when I was in therapy, where I'm so hard on myself. And I don't remember what I was sharing with a therapist, but she was like, and you hear this all in the books, was like, what would you tell a friend if they were going through
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like when we would, what would we be telling our friends?
Yeah.
Absolutely make your own breakfast
Yeah.
and rely on that, have others like care for themselves more, give yourself more time. It's all these things that we think others should be doing, but sometimes we have a hard time like going easy on ourselves and applying those same kind of practices to
Yeah.
ourselves.
And I think it starts with what you're talking about. It starts with asking those questions. And even when we talk about mindfulness, it's like sitting and like listening to what you need. And so that's going to take practice
Yeah.
and we're going to start that, like, segues into this next session that I'm going to talk about is mindset shifts, right? And
Mhm.
so let's talk about the internal work, the beliefs that have kept so many of us stuck. So we want to talk about three mindset shifts. The first one is self-care is not selfish. It's survival. This one was a big one for me. I definitely labeled other people selfish if they did for themselves, if they took time for themselves a long time ago in my motherhood journey. But we can't pour from an empty cup. And that's my favorite analogy of like emotional energy as a cup. And honestly, empty cups don't nurture well. And like we've been talking about a
Yeah.
lot, studies show that when a primary caregiver is healthy and happy, guess what? The kids are healthy and happy. And so the
Mhm.
more we care for ourselves, the more grounded, patient, and present we become. So let's circle back, listeners. Self care is not selfish.
Yes, that is essential. And we talk about that so much on Chasing Brighter. And it's certainly very hard to walk the walk, but we really need to continue to have that narrative internalized in ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, mind shift number two that we want to talk about is that my needs matter as much as everyone else's. So, Not more, not less, but just as much.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to earn you don't have to earn these things. You don't have to earn joy,
Yeah.
earn peace, earn rest. You get to have them because you're an amazing human.
Yeah. It's not, oh, after I load the dishwasher or I do the dishes, then I can go read a book or whatever. It's just that's an automatic essential need.
Yes. It's holding yourself to those same standards that you're applying to others. I don't know if standards is the right word, but it's you have these expectations of other members of your family and you want them to be taken care of and you want to take care of them and do the same to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Our third mindset shift is I am allowed to redefine what happiness looks like. Midlife is such a great time, right? Midlife is an invitation because we've spent years doing for others. And now we're not, many of us in midlife are, our kids are more independent at this point. And so we spent all these years doing for others, but now we have a little bit more free time, not just keeping people
Yes.
alive and
Yeah.
wiping butts. And now we get to ask, what do I want more of? What do I want less of? What brings me alive? And also, just to note too, a lot of times in midlife, if you heard the term, Kelly, too, like when you're in the sandwich generation, have you heard that where it's because you still have
Yes.
kids at home,
Yeah.
but then your
Yeah.
parents are aging. And so a lot of us have had, even I know you've already experienced this. You guys have already experienced this when you have a parent that has like a health issue, a health struggle, then you're managing. We talked about it because I did that, or no, it didn't happen during the podcast when your father-in-law got ill. And so then your husband had to manage going and caring for his family. And then you were home making sure
Yeah, it was a really
yeah.
yeah, it was like the beginning of just a lot of shit years for us. I think it was like that happened and then the pandemic hit sometime around
Yeah.
after that. No, it was, and it is, it's demanding when you have both sides, demands to take care of your parents, an aging
Mhm.
family, and
Yeah.
then this demand for nurturing on the younger your kids, and it's there's so many layers to this too,
Mhm.
where it's really, I think, to me, when it's like, what is you deserve to be happy, it's really for a lot of us sitting with that
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
figuring out like how do you redefine what that looks like and
Yeah.
explore things, try things on, see if you like this, see if you like that. Am I enjoying this? Am I not enjoying that? Is this now getting stressful? Like I loved golfing and tennis, really fun. I did that for a summer and then
Yeah.
I it just got really busy and I wasn't as fun anymore where it felt like it was more of a chore. And so it's thinking about and so we change, we evolve, and it's just continuing to that pursuit of finding
Mhm.
joy.
And I think it might look simpler, deeper, quieter. So this is so interesting. So you've already know in our March episode, we talked about women who influence us that I love the skim. I love the skim.
Yes.
I love the owners of the skim. Anyway, they posted this thing on Instagram and it said the math is simply not mathing. Wives who are the primary earner in their marriage spend more time on caregiving and housework and less time on leisure than their husbands do. And then is that the one I saw? Then I saw this. And so they had a bar graph and all this stuff. And so I think for me, last night, it was Cinco de Mayo, where Kelly and I are from. Cinco de Mayo was a huge thing. And so mom and
Yeah.
dad brought all this food over. And I was sitting on the couch, just, like, staring into space. And mom and dad were having, like and Justin were having sangrias and margaritas, and I was on the couch, and Justin was like, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" And I saw this graphic, and it was, like, someone asking it was like a drawing, a profile of a woman, and it said, "What's wrong? Why are you quiet?" And it just had a million words, like, in their brain, right? And I just think, do you feel that way as I've gotten older? What I need is just to sit. Like, that is
Well,
happy.
it's interesting that you say that because I've been sick for the last week and a half. I thought it was going to be a 3-day illness and it's like an illness that never ends. And so I leaned into doing nothing and just like, I feel like crap. I'm going to go lay down. I'm just going to hang out on my bed and watch a show and get tired and take a nap and just like really rest and recharge. And I love binging an episode of, or two of something. That is such a great, joyful thing for me. And it's funny because when I was sick, it became more of a chore, if that makes sense, where it's, "Ah, I have nothing to do. I'm just going to watch TV." And so I noticed I've been feeling better. And like yesterday, I was like, "Ooh, I'm going to turn on this show when I like eat my lunch." And it's
Yeah.
like such a great treat. And so it's funny how going back to those mindsets where I can do the same activity and I find it to be a joyful moment
Yeah.
versus just something to fill my time.
And I think that's where we want to shift to, right? Is what daily rituals can we engage in that will fill our cup? And we want to talk about being practical. We're not saying let's overhaul your whole life and you're going to put in a steam room, I don't know, in a yoga area. But these are gentle, doable daily practices that help remind yourself that you matter.
Yeah, because this is really important because we end up finding ourselves on that like burnout. We just talked about that in one of our recent episodes where we really want to continue to find ways to bring joy in everyday moments. And one of the ways that you can do this in the morning is before the day gets away from you, ask, how do I feel today? What do I need? Even 5 minutes with a warm, delicious cup of coffee, which is my fave, or some tea, a deep breath with that can just change the tone of your day. Just taking that moment. It's even the idea of just practicing that gratitude, maybe
You know,
journaling.
yeah, you know that sorry, before we go to journaling,
Yeah.
that note, whatever it says, but first coffee, something that I have done, and also if you have animals, this might resonate with you because if you have dogs, they have to go out to go potty first thing in the morning. But I will go we have a fancy coffee machine, so I'll crank the handle. The first thing I do is grind the beans. I turn on the coffee machine, do the beans, and then turn off the alarm and then let the dogs out. And that's something that I remember I'm very intentional that the first thing I do downstairs is something for myself. Just a little tiny thing of, no, I'm going to get my coffee going. Then I'll do all the other things for everybody. And so, like you're saying, like, what is like a little thing with our morning check in we can do just for ourselves? Like you said, you get your breakfast.
I get coffee first, for sure.
Yeah.
I go downstairs, I turn
Yeah.
it on, I get myself a cup before I do anything else. And I think that's really interesting. I'm curious about our friends. I just want to ask other women, like, are we all the but first coffee
Yes.
generation to get our day going? The other thing is there's like a clip Jerry Seinfeld was on the Colbert Show, and he was talking about just how I think I've talked about
No,
this
you've
before,
talked
but
about
like
it. Yes.
yeah, or he was like, "The cup of coffee, it's like the most perfect moment of the day, the most
Yes.
perfect time before, like, basically all this shit happens." And it's taking that moment and don't rush through it. This is where it's like sitting in that, sitting with that, and just enjoying that quiet moment of that, like, delicious first couple sips
Because you're
before
right,
it gets
like
cold because 'cause you're running
yes,
around the
but
house.
also you don't know what your day is gonna bring. Do the animals throw up? Do you go try to get a kid and then they have a fever and then they're sick? Or it's like you and I are talking and it sounds like we're the first ones up in the home and the first ones moving
The
and
first ones
shaking.
to function,
Yes.
yes.
So we don't know what's gonna happen with everyone else. And so it's like just taking that little intention for yourself, I think starts your day out versus like maybe being resentful and pissed off because then you start waking up the children and then who the hell knows. Sometimes I've woken up the children and it's dressed like a pirate day. Like shit, running around trying to find a bandana. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's so at least I've started a little something for myself before the craziness ensues.
Yeah, yeah, and if you have that routine down and this is you're plodding along here and you're like,
Yeah.
"I got that, I'm good." The other thing we talk about is really journaling and voice notes. I love the
Hmm.
idea of voice
Me
notes too.
too. I
It
was gonna say
create
that.
space to process thoughts. A few lines a day, even if it's a voice memo on a walk, can help you connect to your inner world. And try
Mhm.
voice notes. I think I'm gonna try that.
Yeah.
I have journaling and
Mhm.
I do journaling a bunch of different ways. And it's one of the things that I can sit and do, but I don't do it as often as I want to. I do it a handful of times a week. It's not built into my routine.
Yeah.
I do it for a while and then I end up getting distracted and it falls out of my routine. But I love
Yeah.
that practice.
I think we've talked about this. Was going around social media where every time something positive happens, put it in the notes of your phone. And then when you're really down or having a crappy day, you can go back and look at all the wonderful things that have happened. So that might be, and so I had a client years ago that called it a victory journal. So I use that term in my practice. And so could that be an opportunity to write, like review, adding like victories, like what's
Yeah.
going good right now? I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about, so this is what I talked about before, which I'm getting better at, nourishment breaks. Are you eating something that you enjoy in the day? Are you drinking water, moving your body in a way that feels good and not punishing? So, how are you nourishing your body? I've talked about what's helpful is just getting pre made protein shakes to have because I am one that kind of kicks off my day. And then I'm like, oh, I have back to back sessions and I didn't plan what I was eating. So, how can you carve out ways I'm good with water, I'm good with movement. But for me, it's what are you eating that day to nourish your body? And it's enjoyable. Not that you're just like, oh, no one's eating this leftovers, which I hate too, but I don't want to waste it. So I'm just going to just cut.
Yeah, because the other part too is doing that, then you're not satisfied and then you end up sabotaging and eating other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really that mindful activity. And then joy moments. This one is my favorite. And I really need to do this one, especially when you have those parts of your day where things just don't plan out the way that you thought. A lot of unexpected things happen. And like ways to, I love the idea of listening to your favorite song as a
Mhm.
way to reground yourself. Even stepping outside in the sun for 5 minutes if it's sunny. One of the other things I do, Jess, is try to find, because it's not always warm and sunny out in Chicago, but even trying to find sunny spots in my sitting by a sunny window or sitting in like a warm spot on the carpet, even
Yeah.
just because I'm like, I need sunshine. Or text a friend a meme. Love
Mhm.
that. I love the idea of just sharing a funny moment with a friend and maybe you start some sort of a funny thread back and forth, ends up being really fun. So
Yeah.
joy
I
doesn't
was
have to be big and powerful. It's these little things that just are intentional.
talking about music. The big thing that Spotify's big thing is their lists. And I think we've talked about this before. Spotify already has pre-made created lists. And especially now with AI, now Spotify knows you and they're like, oh, you should try this list or this list. But anyway, I think it's called, I'll look it up because it's someone else is making it and they are adding it and changing it, their list on Spotify. But it is my workout music. It's called Girl Boss. And they're changing the songs and it's just girl power anthems. I just love it so much. I listen to that when I want to work
I
out
like that one. I
and
listened to that one too, Jess,
yeah, you do?
actually. Yeah.
And then I made one called Survive and Thrive, which is fun. And you can add graphics and stuff, which my kitchen made. So I have album covers that my kids have changed. Like you see this one, my son Dominic made
Mm,
one and it has funny pictures of the kids. And so that's fun too. And you can create lists for like your mood, right? So, because I put on there like Zen calm music, whatever you're feeling. So that's fun little joy that you can have. And like you were saying with the friends, I'll send a friend. Were you saying something to me?
you're fine. I was like, I needed to measure myself against
Oh,
my.
I thought it was a signal.
What's the signal that's like interest?
Domestic violence that you need help. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will text a friend of meme and like you're saying, then that will get you talking and laughing with each other. I love that. So now we're shifting to our final tips are prioritizing joy without guilt. So if we are honest, we know that many of us feel guilty even thinking about joy, right? Conditioned We've been conditioned to see busyness as a virtue and joy as a luxury. The truth is, you were not put on this earth just to keep a house running and a calendar organized. You were meant to experience life, to laugh, to play, to dance, to rest, and to create.
Start by giving yourself small joys, a solo coffee run, a craft night, a walk without multitasking. Read a book that's just pure fun, a great escape, something that just you really enjoy. Remind yourself that joy is fuel. And for us to continue to help others, we need to fuel ourselves. The more joy you create, the more light you bring to everyone else around you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that joy is fuel. Mothering yourself is not a trend. Okay. We're starting a revolution. It's a way of saying, I matter too. It's how we reclaim our happiness, how we teach our children, particularly our daughters, to do the same, and how we make midlife not a crisis, but a beautiful coming home to ourselves.
This week, really always, but especially this week, do one thing for the woman inside of you, the one who's been waiting for your love, your attention, and your care. She's not selfish, she's sacred. Thanks for listening today. Don't forget to subscribe so you can hear our latest episodes as soon as they drop.
If you loved today's episode, share with a friend. Find us on Instagram, Facebook at Chasing Brighter, or check out our blog at chasingbrighter.com and follow us. If you want to know more about Kelly and I, read our blogs, find more tips, tools, and resources, check that out at chasingbrighter.com. Thanks. Remember, your best life is just a listen away.